Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So, if you played Diablo 4 beta, or even if you didn't play Diablo 4 beta, you may be a little bit confused by some of the words that they're throwing around, and like injured or healthy or crowd control effects or things like that don't really necessarily make a whole lot of sense. You can try and figure out what they mean. I mean, healthy, I guess, would technically mean a monster who's like at full health, or injured would maybe mean a monster who's at low health. But what's the exact percentages? Like, where does it trigger? Where does it fall off? Like what effects within the game count as crowd control effects? How does the chilling system work and all of that? So what I hope to do today is go over a lot of these and dispel maybe any myths or, misconceptions that there could be about some of these abilities. Let's start out with healthy. So what is healthy? Healthy is characters have more than 80% of their life. So if you see an ability and it says that it requires you to be healthy to gain the bonus, then that means that you have to have 80% or higher life to gain the effect. So basically full. Most people aren't going to float at 80%. You're either going to be full or you're going to be horribly injured. But like as you can see right now on my rogue down here at the bottom, I seem to be around 80%. So, I guess that's not too bad. But you would have to be chugging some potions, because every time that you go low on health, to maintain this bonus, you're definitely going to have to keep your HP high. There are a lot of characters in the game that can do that, like the Blood Necromancer, who gets some pretty cool effects from the orbs. He constantly heals himself from the blood orbs that he collects, so that's another interesting thing. Injured is the opposite of this, so Injured has its own modifier as well, and if I can find it, wow, the graphics on that one are bad. You should kind of have some more pixels. Injured characters have 35% or less life, right? So this is a monster who's nearly dead. 35% or less, in my opinion, is pretty close to dead. Most of the time you end up one-shotting those monsters, so I'm not exactly sure the effects that help you against an injured monster are all that amazing. Kind of reminds me of, throughout the game, you'll find some various things that will say like 10% chance to execute a monster who is at 5% health or lower, and I'm like, isn't he gonna get one shot anyway by like anything that touches him if he's at 5% health? And then like it doesn't work on elites, so I don't know, a little weird. Another one is berserking. You may have played the barbarian and you may not have known exactly what the hell berserk does. Well, here you go. Berserking grants 25% increased damage and 15% increased movement speed. The effect lasts for up to 5 seconds, and there are a lot of ways that you can extend the berserking duration on the barbarian. I've seen it myself. Overpower. What the hell is overpower? So overpower, I have a couple different graphics for this one, deals bonus damage based on the sum of your current life and fortified life. It also has a base percentage crit of 3%, which cannot be raised or lowered in any way. There are specific skills that will actually grant a free overpower in certain situations, and I've seen these myself, but they require some special circumstances to get the overpower effect. What the hell is overpower? Well, overpower seems to be a extra damage bonus above a crit. So if your crit is, doing a very nice critical hit on a target and getting a nice damage bonus, then overpower is something that stacks on top of your crit and makes things a little bit more damaging. Unfortunately, because it has such a low percent chance to proc, it may not be something that you want to focus on unless you can somehow guarantee an overpower strike through the use of abilities or legendary affixes. However, it is there, and it is going to do a really nice amount of damage. You might also be wondering about the crits, the overpowers, and things like that, and how you can tell you're actually getting those. Well, as it turns out, they're actually different colors. So this one shows you that the color of the numbers as they appear is critical strike is yellow, overpower is blue, and if you get a crit and overpower together, you get a very nice orange color. And if you're wondering how I know that overpower is 3%. That was another tooltip that popped up in the loading screen. So attacks have a 3% chance to overpower. This chance cannot be passively improved, but some effects can cause attacks to guarantee an overpower. Moving on to the next one, we've got close or distant. You may have seen this on quite a few items and wondered what the hell it meant. Well, it's pretty simple. Close enemies are those who are in melee range. Distant enemies are those who are outside of melee range. Pretty simple. It's good to get clarification on that, though, because I always kind of assumed that close would mean, obviously monsters that are close to you, but I never knew whether it would be like a scaling thing or like how far away the monster is, and distant, how far is distant. Well, distant is literally just monsters who are not in melee range, which is kind of crazy. I thought it would have been monsters that were much further away than that. You may have wondered what the hell crowd control means. So crowd control was a little bit difficult one that I had to look up, and I wasn't really quite the hell sure either. But apparently there is a list, and I'm going to bring that list up on the screen real quick. All right, so this is the list of effects that are considered to be crowd controls. Slow, immobilize, stun, knockback, knockdown, taunt, fear, tether, daze, chill, freeze, and also a fully staggered boss is considered to be under the effect of crowd control. So in the future, if you guys are running and you see an effect that says boosts damage when a monster is under crowd control, now you know exactly what constitutes a crowd control. Any of these abilities constitute crowd control, and they work really nicely. So a slow is like something that you can apply to just about anything. Chills, freezes, daze, fears, all of this stuff counts as crowd control and will boost your damage for those particular things. So if you see anything within the game that says boosts your damage while a monster is under crowd control, or gives you this effect while a monster is under crowd control, this is the full list of crowd control things. I also have a ton more, by the way. So next is barriers. So I've got a lot on barriers. Let's go ahead and pull up barriers. Barriers absorb damage from all sources up to a specified amount. And I believe I have some more on barriers as well. Although there's also another effect, which I think is separate than barriers, and that is called Fortify. So fortified characters take 10% reduced damage. You become fortified when you have more Fortify than your current life. As you can see, I also have another tooltip here from the loading screen. You're fortified and take reduced damage as long as you have more Fortify than your current life. Certain skills or items can grant Fortify, which cannot exceed your maximum life. So very interesting. Frozen is another interesting one. So frozen enemies cannot move or attack, and enemies can be frozen by repeatedly chilling them. So the chilling effect that you see on many cold skills does stack, and it stacks cumulatively until it reaches the freezing state. So if you do have a lot of chilling items, or chilling skills, or chilling legendary affixes, or things like that, it will eventually culminate in a frozen effect. They are tied together. Immune is an interesting one that we see a lot. Immune characters cannot be damaged, and all negative effects are removed and prevented. So during the time when a monster is immune, you cannot do anything to them. Players as well, I'm assuming. It specifically says players, but I'm assuming that also applies to monsters. Knockdown. The knockdown status effect prevents enemies from moving or taking action for a short duration, and it can be removed through the unstoppable or immune effects. And speaking of unstoppable characters have all control impairing effects removed and prevented. Unstoppable is kind of like the cannot be frozen of this game. Stealth. Stealth characters cannot be directly targeted by enemies. Using an attack or taking damage will instantly remove stealth. I also have, well, I might not have it saved, but there's another one that says that if you take incidental damage during a stealth, it will break the stealth. So like, for instance, if an AoE attack goes off and you take any damage during the stealth effect, even if the effect is not necessarily targeted at you, it will also break the effect. Vulnerable. Vulnerable enemies, you may have seen this on tons of items. It's like when you make the monster vulnerable, the monster will become vulnerable. When the monster is vulnerable, do X. Well, when monsters are vulnerable, they take 20% increased damage. That is what the vulnerable effect does to monsters. You may also be wondering what classifies as an elite, because there are many items in the game that talk about elites. Elites include champions, elites, of course, bosses, and also bloodmark players when you're in PvP. Damage over time effects. There was a very interesting little doodad in here for damage over time effects that basically said that damage over time effects do not have random damage variance and cannot critically strike. Now, another person informed me as I was talking about this that apparently it does a little bit more than that. So if you do happen to crit during a damage over time, it's not going to add that crit damage to like the pulse. But apparently it does just simply add it as additional damage over time, like seconds or like it's not quite apparent because I'm going to need to do a little bit of research on this. But I mean, it doesn't crit and it has no damage variance. So if you do happen to crit, it's not going to actually apply a crit. That much is apparent. Blood orbs. So when we play the Necromancer in open bird beta, you might be wondering what the hell blood orbs do. Well, they heal you for 50% of your maximum life when you pick them up. And they also have a lot of other interesting things that they do, specifically revolving around your characters. Like abilities, like maybe picking up the blood orbs is, going to give you more damage or increased movement speed or various other things. Dazes. I also have dazes in here. So what does a daze do? The daze status effect prevents enemies from attacking or using skills for a short duration, but does not stop them from moving. It can be removed through unstoppable or immune effects. So it will prevent you from attacking, but it won't prevent you from chasing the monster down or the monster from chasing you down. Either side of that coin. And I think that might be everything that I've got. Oh, lucky hit. Skills can trigger lucky hit effects if a skill has a lucky hit chance of 50% and an effect of 20% chance to stun an enemy, then the skill will stun enemies on average 10% of the time. So what this is talking about is that there's a lot of lucky hit effects, and the lucky hit effects are specifically triggered through the lucky hit chance. So whatever your lucky hit chance is going to be the first hurdle to getting toward the goal. So in this particular case, they're saying that there's a lucky hit chance of 50%, and the effect is a 20% chance to stun the enemy. So 50% of the time it will succeed, and 20% of the time that it succeeds, it will be a stun, which means that half of your percentage is already taken away because you're going to fail 50% of the time, and so on average you're going to have about a 10% chance to stun the enemy. Lucky hit chance is interesting because there's tons and tons of items that can give you lucky hit chance. Abilities have their own specific lucky hit chance percentages as well. So if you look at the ability, you might see that it says it's a 30%, and then you go to another one and it'll be like a 50% lucky hit chance. And it does seem like that building lucky hit chance for specific effects can be extremely potent in this game. I also have some other interesting information here, which I might as well share at the same time. So this is a tooltip that I found. It says in each higher world tier, monsters are more challenging. They run faster. Their projectiles are more accurate and faster. Their powerful attacks have reduced cooldowns and are stronger, and the elite affixes are more powerful. And I also have another one here, which is also about I think it's the champions. Yes. So champion monsters that appear in World Tier 3, Nightmare, and World Tier 4, Torment, have a damage-resistant aura, which do not protect themselves, but protect others. Focus on killing them first. So this is one specifically for, in higher difficulties, there's going to be monsters that are just going to make all the other monsters a lot more difficult to kill, which is pretty darn cool. And I think that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about specific affixes or things that you are not sure about, I mean, let me know. I would definitely be interested in looking them up. I Crackling Energy. I forgot about Crackling Energy. Crackling Energy periodically damages surrounding enemies when picked up. Now, I built a Crackling Energy Sorceress, and you can pick up about 12 Crackling Energies, and they store on you at any given time. And on top of that, they also just, like, randomly and rather damagingly attack anything that comes near you. So if you have, like, a full stack of 12, it's just going to sit there and just shock the crap out of anything that comes close to you. There's also a lot of other uses for Crackling Energy besides what it says here. As I played the Sorceress, I found out that you could do things like pick them up to restore mana, pick them up to proc effects like the Lucky Hit effects, and all sorts of other very interesting uses for them. They can do a lot with Crackling Energy, but you also have to make them spawn. So there's tons and tons of abilities and ways that you can force the Crackling Energies to fall on the ground. And then once they're on the ground, you have to actually go collect them, and then utilize them in a certain way. I do feel like they're a little bit short in duration, but overall, like, I can't really fully utilize them yet. So I guess we'll just see in the future. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just going over all of the crazy terminology that they have within the game, and I hope I've made things a little bit clearer for you, maybe when you're building your character. And as always, keep watching.